transforming lives as we love, serve, and remember who we are.
One heart, one mind,
one soul at a time.
Hello, we are Soul Light Connection. We are the core of the music ministry here at Spiritual Life Center. We're so glad that you've chosen to be with us today. And we want you to know your soul is welcome here.
That's right, you're in the right place at the right time, just where you are meant to be. Let's all sing about it. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. In the right place, I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh my soul, is welcome here. Oh my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. My soul is welcome. My soul is welcome. My soul is welcome here. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh my soul is welcome here. Oh my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome. Oh my soul is welcome. Oh my soul is welcome here. Oh my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I'm getting the message. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
Well, good morning, and welcome to the Spiritual Life Center experience that we bring to you wherever you might be on the planet today. We're grateful for your presence as we remind one another we are all interconnected. We are all one in the Spirit. You know, we have folks across the planet who view our services. So each week I acknowledge at least one of those places outside of the United States where people are tuning in to our service today. So this morning, I'd like to acknowledge our friends in South Korea. Thank you for connecting with us, and know that you are a magnificent blessing to everyone on our planet. At this time, let's take a few moments to commune with the presence of pure spirit. We do so in prayer, which is the language of spirit. And what we do, we realize our oneness with one another across the planet, as well as our oneness with the Spirit of the living God. And we do so now. We turn within. We touch that secret place of the Most High, that place within us that is beyond words, that can never be hurt, harmed, or endangered in any way. It is the truth of our being. and it's changeless. We can lean on this presence. And as we lean on this presence, we activate all the qualities of this presence we call God, including the love, the peace, the joy, the wisdom, and we express it in every aspect of our life. And as we express that in our life, we can say without a doubt that when you see me, you are seeing the same presence that sent me. For this presence and I and all of us are one. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. Well, we're grateful and thankful for your presence here today. And let us remind one another of our mission here at Spiritual Life Center. We transform lives as we love, serve, and remember. And we do so through these 5 unity principles, which lay the foundation of what we believe. So if someone ever asks, what do we believe in? You can say the following. God is absolute good and everywhere present. People are inherently good. Thoughts create our experiences. Prayer and meditation are how we connect with God, and we must take action. As we've been saying for the last few weeks, we are now in the season for nonviolence that takes place between January 30th and April the 4th. And our community joins with other communities and individuals of like-minded organizations around the world in this season for nonviolence. This is an event that's inspired by the memorial anniversaries of Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who both passed away, and they passed away on January 30th for Mahatma Gandhi and April 4th for Martin Luther King. And the purpose of the season for nonviolence is to create an awareness of nonviolent principles as well as practices that are able to heal, transform, and empower our lives and our communities. And we seek to demonstrate that every person can move through the world in the direction of peace through their daily nonviolent choice and action. In other words, we all have a role to play. And so each week during the season for nonviolence, an individual from Spiritual Life Center does a reading on a principle that supports the purpose of this event. And today our reading is from our music team member and bass player, Paul Relvis. So welcome, Paul.
Today I apologize to anyone I have hurt. Today I allow Spirit to enter into any relationship in need of healing. The lines of communication are open between us, and I'm filled with love and forgiveness. I apologize for any hurt I may have caused anyone through my words and actions. I call on the forgiving power of God to heal any hurts from the past. Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. I now realize thoughts of resentment that are blocking me from receiving my good. I allow forgiveness to open the path to blessings in my life. God's will for me is joy, peace, and love. I release all concerns into God's healing light and affirm forgiveness. Thank you, God, for answered prayer. Here's a little personal story that I had. And it's more specifically about forgiveness. Many years ago, back in my high school days, I played a lot of rock fusion and jazz and rock music. I was fortunate enough to meet a guitar player who was about the same age, and that was into the same types of music, and we became close friends. But through time and life, we eventually parted ways as we got older and eventually lost touch with each other. Just recently, in 2020, I decided to look him up on Facebook and try to reconnect. Eventually, we reconnected, and we never missed a beat. We talked about life and music and all the good times we shared together. We decided to collaborate on some music, and we were sending pieces and ideas to one another, and it was fantastic. We were finally doing a lot of the things that we always wanted to do many years ago, but never made the time or priority to make it happen. We texted quite a bit, and we talked on the phone when we could, trying to work through the creative process. Then one day I didn't hear from him. I texted and called, and at the same time I didn't think much of it until a mutual friend of ours called me and told me that Russ had passed away in the night from a heart attack. I was so shocked because I just talked to him several days earlier and he sounded great. I was totally devastated by his death and how sudden it was. After much reflection, I was regretful that I had waited so long to reconnect and make music again. I felt like there was something missing as far as an apology. It was really no one's fault, really, but I think about how much we could have accomplished or some kind of recognition of the large part of our lives that really got missed. Even though we were able to reconnect and be creative, which I was very grateful for, I still had a heavy heart after his passing. I finally realized it was myself that had hurt, and it was myself that I needed to forgive. So I will say these words, these parting words. Be light, be free. Life is short. Forgive and promise yourself to do better, not only with yourself, but with others. Your heart and mind will thank you. And finally, your soul will thank you. Blessed be.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Deborah Phillips, and here's what's happening at SLC. You know, we are in times of rolling change, and here is Reverend James to fill us in on our current COVID status.
Well, thank you, Reverend Deborah. As you may be aware, the United States Supreme Court lifted some of the restrictions for religious services that were prompted by the coronavirus pandemic that we're going through. And I want to let you know that our team will be meeting to discern what is the highest and best interest of Spiritual Life Center in light of the latest decision, as well as the expected state guidelines. So we're telling everyone to be on the lookout. You will be hearing from us very soon. And I want to thank everyone for holding the high watch and the consciousness for our community during these most interesting times. So thank you for your presence and support.
Thank you, Reverend James. This week, Discovering Spirit Within presents Inner Presence. In this conversation with Wade Edwards, we delve into the idea that there is a place within each one of us that has never been touched by the outside world. We offer suggestions on how to begin or expand a practice that will help you get in touch with your inner presence. We also discuss the practical side of living from the inside out. Join us for a deeply inspiring conversation. Discovering Spirit Within premieres every Wednesday on your favorite podcast app. And this Wednesday, we observe Ash Wednesday with a virtual meditation called Reflections on Your 12 Powers. Reverend James Trapp and I will take you on a meditative journey through 12 ideas that can help us all awaken spiritually as we step into this Lenten season. Laurie Shiflett and Paula Mandella are preparing a beautiful chant to accompany our meditation. Reflections on Your 12 Powers premieres on YouTube and Facebook at 7 p.m. this Wednesday, February 17th. Speaking of beautiful music, mark your calendars for Friday, March 19th at 7 p.m. for a very special concert celebrating St. Patrick. Celtic Crossing, Tunes and Tales of the Gaelic Folk will premiere on our YouTube and Facebook channels. Experience the traditional sounds and instruments of Irish and Scottish folk music. This exceptional ensemble of stellar musicians is comprised of multi-instrumentalist Catherine Mandella playing penny whistle, Irish bouzouki, shepherd's small pipes, and bodhrán. Lisa Lawson offers her lilting vocals and skilled fiddle playing. Michael Lawson mixes in the rich depth of cello and adds a dash of vocals as well. Clark Smith draws it all together with his driving guitar rhythms. Register for this wonderful concert today at slcworld.org. Martha Mills, president of our Board of Trustees, is here now with their monthly update.
Hello, I'm Martha Mills, president of the SLC Board of Trustees, and this is the February 2021 Board Update. First, please join the board and the staff in expressing gratitude and congratulations to the 119 people thus far who've renewed as SLC governing members for 2021. They said yes to deepening their spiritual development, made a commitment to service, and to making consistent financial, fair share sustaining contributions to the SLC Spiritual Cooperative. We celebrate with you. More great news. At the governing members meeting held on January 31st, 63 governing members elected 2 representatives and 1 alternate to serve on the trustee recruitment committee this spring. Congratulations to Paul Sanchez and to Brittany Jorgensen, who will serve as the governing member representatives, and Carol Manson, who will stand in the wings ready to perform as an alternate. Trustee George Piper, Jenny Thomas, and I will represent the board along with Reverend Trapp on this committee. The Trustee Recruitment Committee is charged with managing the trustee recruitment process, which culminates in vetting applications, interviewing, and recommending candidates to serve a 3-year term on the board. Their recommendation will be forwarded first to the board for review at our April meeting and then to the governing members for a vote at our May membership meeting, scheduled for Sunday, May 16th. The trustee application will be available online later this month and due March 26th. An informational Zoom event will be held on Sunday, March 7th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. entitled, "So, You Think You Want to Be a Trustee?" Carol Cochran, our former SLC board president, will conduct this informative session about the roles and responsibilities of a trustee and provide a context for our evolution into a mission-centered ministry focused on transforming lives as we love, serve, and remember. Now, I have a request to make of you. Whether you're a governing member, community member, or a newcomer, whether you are local or virtual, we ask you to join with us in manifesting servant leaders with the skills and spiritual development to further our evolution as a spiritual, cooperative, and mission-centered ministry. If you're a governing member, ask yourself if you feel called to make a 3-year commitment starting in June 2021. We'll have up to 3 positions for this level of leadership. If you're a community member, join us in articulating and affirming the attributes of a servant leader. Maybe you know someone who's divinely inspired to serve, but needs a nudge. One last reminder. This month, we will begin hosting community member orientations to learn more about our new community member pathway to full membership. There are 2 Zoom orientations, Sunday, February 21st at 1 p.m. and Tuesday, February 23rd at 7 p.m. Go to the slcworld.org website membership section to learn more and to RSVP, also to receive the Zoom link. With open heart, we thank you, and happy Valentine's Day.
It's really exciting to hear how SLC is progressing towards our goals. Thank you, Martha. And you know, we love to greet our newcomers. And while we cannot greet you in person, we want you to know that we are very happy that you are with us today as you walk your unique path. You can learn more about us by going to slcworld.org/connect. When you fill out the online card, you can choose to receive our weekly message, find opportunities for connecting with our prayer chaplains and online small groups. You can also ask to be notified of greater ways to connect with us virtually as we expand our online community. And speaking of connecting, you can find all details for the happenings at SLC by simply going to our website, slcworld.org. Thank you for joining us today. We are honored to be with you in the Spirit.
I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, to help you awake to all the wonder that you are. I long to show you all the joy you're worthy of. I'm here to remind you how much you truly love. I'm here to remind you of your magnificence, to help you awake to
We believe there is tremendous power in the spoken word, so if it feels comfortable for you, please speak aloud our vision statement. Spiritual Life Center is a loving, vibrant family that welcomes home all people and accepts everyone, no exceptions, weaving ancient spiritual traditions with emerging wisdom. We cultivate a spiritual deepening with the divine, each other, and our planet.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the heart, I am the hands. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the heart, you are the hands. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the heart, we are the hands, and a blessing to the world. We're a blessing to the world.
You are the heart and hands of God, the voice of spirit on earth. Your presence is a blessing. Let these words resonate through you as we settle into meditation, gently relaxing into the stillness. Breathing, we open to this truth. You are a blessing to our world. Softening into the moment, opening and connecting our hearts in spirit, one with love, one with eternity, a blessing to our world. Breathing deeply we open to peace. Breathing once again, we open to the love that we are. Relaxing into the light of love, connecting with the peace of this moment, with the peace of the divine. We center in our connection with all that is, seeing from the higher place of wisdom, with love and acceptance. We share this light. All is well. As divine presence whispers, lean on me. Lean into the love I offer. Coming home to the sweetest welcome, a smile of greeting, a loving embrace, held in the arms of love, wings carrying you higher into the peace of presence. We are vibrant, whole, beautiful, and complete. We are the light of hope. We are the spreaders of peace. I see you. I love you. I welcome you. I accept you. Lifting us beyond our fears into the comfort of love. Whatever we are going through, Spirit is there, gently, lovingly waiting for us to come home, to breathe into our being, supporting us on our journey in all we do. We are already enough, just as we are, a beautiful expression of love. Remembering the outer is a reflection of the inner. We look within with compassion and acceptance, connecting with the core of who we are, divine expressions, untouched by anything around us. Imagine a love so great, as you breathe into it, your heart opens and expands. You are one with this presence, and this presence is a gift we share with others, reflected in all we do. It is the seed of greatness, of pure potential, growing with each thought that we nourish. We nurture this place within as we care for our soul, supported along the journey by divine presence. You are love itself. All our fears and doubts wash away as we turn them over and step into the light of God, into the light of glory. As we move into the silence, let your heart open to the presence of Spirit expressing as you. As we breathe and begin to return to this time and place, gently awakening, we hear the call of Spirit. Come into the light, my child, my dear one. Come into the light. Let me welcome you home. And so it is. Amen.
Where do I go with all these feelings, all these faces and open doors, when everyone seems so serene and I just feel so insecure? Where do I go when all the pieces of my heart feel on the floor? Say, come into the light, why don't you? Come into the light, why don't you? Come on now, come into the light. Where do I go with all these memories, all these bags filled up with shame? How should I feel when you call me an angel, dress me in a crown of gold? What will I do when the tears of sorrow just won't stay inside these eyes? You say, come into the light, why don't you? Come into the light, why don't you? Come on now, come into the light. What should I do when the gentle handed reaches out to take my own? How should I feel when tears of joy, they just won't stay inside these eyes? What will I do when I start to love you, really trust and know you're there? You'd say, you'll be in the light where I am. You'll be in the light where I am. Come on now, come into the light. You'll be in the light where I am. You'll be in the light where I am. Come on now, come into the light.
Thank you once again, Anne, for blessing us with your song and your consciousness. And as we hear and feel the words that were just serenaded to us, we're reminded that we shine the light. That light penetrates beyond the surface of what we actually see with our eyes. If we only take in the surface of life, or we only see the human part of us, which is not most of who we are. Most of who we are is what we cannot see. And if we're only looking at the human part, we're not seeing the whole of what God has made. There was a young man once who was invited to a magnificent Valentine's dinner. It was kind of like a dinner party. And there were some very important people there, and you could look around and there were some folks who knew that they were important. Now, we it's interesting to be around people who know they're important. So there were some very important people there, at least they thought they were. And all the folks there wore magnificent clothes, and, they're all dressed up in their regalia and their designer gowns and the latest tuxedos. They were all at the party. But this young man decided to come casual because he was comfortable that way. This is how he kind of showed love and affirmed love for himself, by being himself. So he simply wore some jeans and a t-shirt. But when he's at the party, he noticed that nobody gave him any attention. They just ignored him. And so after a while, he decided to leave and go home, and he came back after he put on his $2,000 suit. And he was wearing some really nice shoes, and he got cleaned up and dressed up. And when he came back to the party, suddenly everybody started paying him attention. They were asking him, what's your name? What's your Instagram account? What's your Twitter handle? Give me a number. Let me have my people call your people, and let's work out a deal together, and so forth. And later on, when they started to eat, at the Valentine's dinner, the young man sat down. He got his plate of salad, and all of a sudden he emptied the salad in his lap. He got his soup and he poured it on his shoulder. He was eating some tofu, but he took the tofu and started rubbing it on his knee, and he took his dessert and, spread it all over his chest. And everybody was looking at him and said, man, what are you doing? What is going on? And he said, well, I realized that when I came here the very first time that nobody was interested in me, because I realized that you were just inviting my clothes. So I'm feeding my clothes. And he did that because they had not truly met him. They were not really seeing who he really was. They only related to that surface, or that young man's persona, or what they say, the mask, or the changeable part of us. That changeable part is that external part of us that is always subject to being different. But it's not who and what we really are. It's not who we are as spiritual beings. Now, there's nothing wrong with the persona, or as Emily Cady points out in her book, Lessons in Truth, our personality. But the personality is limited. It's here to be a vehicle to show the spiritual self. And Cady calls that spiritual self our individuality, also known as the I am presence. And that I am presence is unchanging. It is an unchanging essence that is always one with the Spirit of the living God. That is our true self. And that is the part we want to radiate and express in our life and in our world. And it starts by appreciating. It starts by affirming. It starts by valuing the unchanging self. Someone told me that a great acronym for love is letting our value express. Letting our value express. There was once a very mature man. He was of meager means. I guess you say he didn't have any money, didn't have any ends, as they say. But he would go to this antique shop from time to time. And he'd look at all the beautiful things that were in the shop. And one day something caught his eye, something caught his attention. It was a beautiful glass work, and he had just loved it so much. And he asked the owner, could he just make payments on it over time? In the old days, they used to call that layaway. I don't even know if they have layaway plans anymore. But anyway, the owner agreed, and week after week, this elderly gentleman came and he made payments on that item. Sometimes he made a little bit of payment. Sometimes he paid a lot more. And the shop owner was very aware this man appeared to be going beyond his means to purchase this particular item. But the elderly gentleman, did it anyway. And months went by. And eventually the man owned this beautiful, magnificent piece of art. And when he went to pick it up to take it home, the shop owner decided to get in the man's business. He would kind of get a little nosy. And he said to him, now you've come in here week after week, and you've paid for this item. I know it's been difficult for you, and I'm sure you have other things you need to take care of. And he asked the gentleman, why did you do this? And so the man said to the shop owner, I have this special place in my home. And I allow only the most beautiful things to come in because that's the place where I live. And I think that man is bringing us a message today. And that is, we want to affirm and irradiate that unchanging, loving presence that we are. That spiritual presence that we really are. So we want to examine ourselves and see what is it that we allow to remain in our awareness. What are we allowing to remain in our consciousness? There's a law called the law of mind action that says that thoughts held in mind produce after a kind. So we want to ask ourselves, are we allowing to remain in our mind? Is it of beauty? Or is it the ugliness at the end of the day? How does our memory serve us? Do we remember the things that went wrong? Do we remember the bad or nasty things people may have said about us or now or in the past? Things that weren't quite right with other people? Or do we allow ourselves to live filled with beauty and magnificence? And I think therein lies an aspect of letting our value express or love. Let our value express. We have to treat ourselves well. And we will be well on our way to letting that spiritual self, the I am presence, the unchangeable nature of our being take over our life and not let the surface of ourselves run the show. I believe this is our calling in life, to live from that I am, to live from that spiritual self. And we do not allow it to take over our life and simply live from the surface personality only. We want to live from that spiritual consciousness. Now, here's the challenge. Because most of us have been conditioned to only live from the surface, only live from what we can see. And when we begin to make a decision to transcend from living from the personality or from the surface of life, we may run into resistance. Emily Cady calls this chemicalization. And chemicalization is when we seek to evolve from one state of awareness, one state of consciousness, to another stage of consciousness. In other words, when we try to move from just surface living, from personality living, or the limited surface level of our existence, to that spiritual self, there's often a clash between the old way of being and the new that we're trying to step into. And this happens not only individually, but also happens collectively in our world. And I think all the things that we're going through right now is the fact there's a big paradigm shift that's trying to move us back into our spiritual self. But when that happens, the result is a clash, and there's an agitation, there's a disruption. It is a process in which something is about to be dissolved. The old is trying to be dissolved and replaced. But it does not happen without putting up a fight. The old is holding on. And when those seeming opposing energies show up, one part wants to follow the spirit. One wants to be part of that I am spiritual process, while the other is trying to run away from it. But we can look at the resistance or the chemicalization from a different perspective. It kind of reminds me of a movie I watched years ago. It's called The Right Stuff. And it helps us understand how this chemicalization process is not a bad thing, but it is a prelude to something better. In one scene, the pilot, Chuck Yeager, and I think he passed away recently, attempts to break the sound barrier. This is the first time someone had ever done this. And so when he reaches the breaking point of the sound, which I think is like 750 miles an hour, the plane starts shaking and shuddering and threatening to almost break apart. Then suddenly he reaches that speed of 750 miles per hour and he breaks through the sound barrier and he experiences glorious silence. he experienced a perfectly smooth ride. I think in our own lives, there's a similar experience whenever we seek and attempt to break through from mere surface living, from mere human living, and really make spirit the guide in our life. Sometimes there's resistance, there's a shaking, there's a shuddering. However, we go through that in order to have the breakthrough. It's not something bad, it's simply part of the process. And in such instances, we must be resilient in moving forward, since resistance is likely to show up as soon as we follow our life to move from that spiritual awareness that we had on a lower level to saying yes to the truth of our being. And often that doesn't happen without our life shuddering sometimes, because without that shuddering, there is no genuine growth. You know, the capacity to be shaken up is often, ironically, the key to growth of any system, whatever it is, including our life. So we move from disturbance to a point where we begin to have that smooth ride. And oftentimes it doesn't happen until we go through our process. That's why I say the universe loves us too much to leave us alone. So when we go through our own chemicalization process, our own chemicalization experiences, and the external world appears to be shaking and rattling and rolling, know it's part of the process of our growth. And in the meantime, what we do is this. We continue to be interested and centered in spiritual truth. God is all that there is. We are one with God. We just affirm that, live that, express that. And we do not lose our peace. We do not lose our joy. We do not lose our love that is always with us. We anchor ourselves in that. And as we do, we remember that we're forever married to this unchanging spirit. Spirit imprints our soul, and we can never lose that imprint. Sometimes we just need to be reminded. You know, there was one Valentine's Day. A young woman was taking a long train ride after an arduous day of work in New York City. She was taking the trip back home. And she was looking down. She was in deep thought. And the thoughts that were going through her mind were thoughts about questioning herself, because she looked at her life and believed she wasn't good enough when she compared herself to other people. She felt that she wasn't attractive enough. She felt that she was a failure because she had not accomplished as much as her friends and her peers had done throughout their life. After all, she thought, I have no awards, I have no accolades for anything that I have done. And sitting right across from her on that train was a young man. He was an artist. And he was practicing his artwork, so he made it a habit to draw the faces of people who were on the train when he was riding it. And he saw this woman across from him. And when he looked at her, he looked beyond the surface appearance, and he looked kind of in her eyes. He looked through her eyes, and he said he could feel as if he peered into her soul. And while he was on the train, he drew a magnificent portrait of her face in exquisite detail. And when he was finished, he went up to the woman as he was handing her the finished portrait and said, I just want to give this to you as a gift. Put it up on the wall at home or whatever you want to do with it. And the young woman looked at the picture of herself, and she was astounded. She was moved. Something deep within her had been stirred up. And she cried and said, "This is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done for me in my life." She had been going through so much. And she said that picture captured something that was more than her surface painting of her face. It was more than just a picture. And for the first time in her life, she said she could remember who she really was. She recalled her true self. She recalled her spiritual self. and something within her transformed. And she felt a deep love and appreciation for herself as well as for that man. But she felt it for herself like never before. And it had nothing at all to do whatever had been going on in her life and in her world. You know, the late Whitney Houston, that many people called the voice because of her magnificent vocal acuity and range, sang a song called The Greatest Love. And this love that she sang about is a love that is within each and every one of us. The love is of self. And to move into that space, we need only be ourselves. And our true self is not the persona. The true self is not what's on the outside. The true self is not what we wear. It's not that surface stuff that the people at that dinner party saw when they looked at that young man at that Valentine's Day party. But as Emily Cady described it, it is our individuality, our individual oneness with God. It's that part of us that is undivided from the whole of spirit. And to get into that place, we need only be our natural God-given self and rest assured in that presence. As we allow our God-given self to be expressed, our individuality, our friendships, our relationships, all of those things are transformed into a zone of harmony because it's coming from that place that is changeless. It's coming from that place that is always in tune with the universe and the presence of God. Because it's not about us. It's not about the surface. It's about representing God. And that's in every one of us. So everyone watching this video or hearing the words I am speaking, know this. Encoded within you are divine designer genes where nothing is lacking, where nothing is missing, where nothing is unlovable. And you are here to activate that God self and walk that way so that when you walk in a room, what you are looking for, you are already being it because you're bringing it. When you walk to meet someone, what you are looking for, you're bringing that. When you walk anywhere, you bring it. You cannot get it unless you bring it. As that old saying goes, you got to bring some to get some. And understand, we don't have to go anywhere. We already have it. We just need to stop hiding our light under a bushel. So whatever the issues are on the surface of our life, whatever they may be, I don't care whether it's clinically been diagnosed or so-called validated, or whether you've made it up yourself by describing yourself in a way that doesn't describe who you really are, about not feeling good enough or whatever the case may be. You become so adept when you step into your spiritual self. You describe yourself as you really are. And the more adept you are describing yourself as a spiritual image and likeness of God itself, you begin to activate that spiritual nature and watch as the sense of separation and being stuck on the surface of the personality is swept away by the spiritual wind of transformation. And what is left is the solid rock of spirit that is always in and around us and being expressed through us. So go forth. Be that self. Attach yourself to the I am. Multiply the all good, so that you radiate this oneness with the presence that you are. And then watch as life bears witness to the dynamic truth that makes all of us free. It is here. It is now. It is forever. It is beyond personality. It is the I am presence. So it is. So we let it be. Happy Valentine's Day. Peace and blessings to you. Well, thank you for being part of our service today, in which we were reminded that we seek to live beyond the surface self, or what we're calling the personality, but live from our spiritual self, our individuality, which is our undivided oneness with the presence. And of course, when we do, the world seems to be at times shaking and rattling and rolling, but we know it's just part of our spiritual growth process. Next Sunday, my talk is Grasping Spirit. It's caught, not taught. And I'll address why spiritual understanding comes through inspiration. I invite you, of course, to remember to join us for our virtual courtyard chat on Zoom at 10:15 Pacific Standard Time. The link to the spiritual courtyard is in the description. So let's meet there and chat a little bit today. Right now is your opportunity to help Spiritual Life Center continue to provide these spiritual experiences for you and anyone else that joins us. And of course, that includes not only our Sunday experience, but our weekly podcasts, our prayer and meditation classes, as well as other transformational experiences that we provide throughout the week. So right now, I invite you to support Spiritual Life Center with your gift or your donation, and to give what you can. It makes a difference and is very much appreciated by our entire community. You can give by texting SLC Love to 44321. That's SLC Love to 44321. Or go to our website, slcworld.org, and click the Donate tab, and you can give in other ways, including by mail. And now I invite you to join in as we affirm our offertory blessing together, either silently or aloud. Just join in consciousness. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
I've been scared, I've been broken. My worries became lines on my face. A broken heart and never said goodbye. Just turned and walked without explaining why. I've done my share of hurting and placing blame, of lying and then feeling shame. The truth so hard to face, so now it's time to make a change. I'll take me as I am. All my wrongs, all my heartaches have made me who I am today. The childhood tears, the grown-up fears will
And now, let us join together and say our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, I am, and all is well.